following is a presentation of Fox Sports.
We are Baltimore. We are Southwest.
The Rangers picked up A.J. Griffin this spring without fully knowing where he was physically in his return from Tommy John surgery. They did know what kind of competitor he was from the years in Oakland and what a healthy Griffin might look like. So after 3 starts in a Rangers uniform, they are seeing what they hope for, crafty and smart, with the stuff to get hitters out. A.J. hopes to take on another role with the Rangers tonight, that of a stopper, as they look to beat the Yankees and stop a 4-game skid. Texas Rangers baseball is presented by AT&T High-Speed Internet. Well, it's a cloudy, breezy night here at Globe Life Park. The threat of rain in the offing later on tonight. Rangers, though, hoping to brew up a storm of offense as they take on the New York Yankees in Game 2 of this 3-game set. And welcome in, everyone, along with Tom Graves, Steve Busby. Glad you could join us on this Tuesday night of Ranger baseball. Rangers trying to get off that 4-game losing streak that they're on, and it looks like they have a pretty good shot tonight because a guy that throws hard is on the mound for the Yankees. And one of the secret weapons, who's not so secret anymore, celebrating his birthday today, Nomar Mazara in the Ranger lineup.
He's 21 years old today. And anytime a kid is your number 1 or number 2 prospect, when he gets to the big leagues, you expect to see something pretty special. But I think he's surprised even the Ranger people with how mature and how well he's played since he's been here. Obviously, he's had a great average. He's hit a couple of long home runs. He's also played very well in the outfield. He's made several terrific plays, game-saving at the time, catch of a ball that looked like a home run in Chicago. He's hitting the ball to all fields, not striking out a lot, very calm at the plate, not afraid to hit with 2 strikes. You could keep going and going and going with things you don't expect to say about someone who just turned 21 years old.
A very polished baseball player at the major league level, a 21-year-old now, Nomar Mazara. So he and the Rangers will look to get back on the winning side of the ledger. A.J. Griffin looking to make it 3-0 for the year. He takes on the Yankees. We'll come back with the starting lineup from the first pitch right after this. Rangers baseball on Fox Sports Southwest is brought to you by your Texas Ford dealers. Visit your local Texas Ford dealer today for incredible deals and see why Ford is the best in Texas. By AT&T high-speed internet. Get a deal worth talking about. Get high-speed internet from AT&T. And by Southwest Airlines. Transparency, low fares, nothing to hide. A very brisk south wind and cloudy skies. A rather humid evening at Indian Breeze right now, and Rangers getting set to take on the Yankees. Before we get things underway, let's sit down and check in with Emily Jones.
Buzz, A.J. Griffin making his 4th start for the Rangers here tonight. He is 2-0 with a 3.18 ERA in his first 3 starts with the team. Overall, he is pleased, but not too pleased with his performance.
I always have pretty high expectations for myself, most of the time pretty unrealistic. So to have started the season so far, the way it's been going, has been pretty awesome. I mean, I couldn't have written it up any better, I don't think, and just try to keep getting better and getting sharper every time I go out there.
So happy, but definitely not complacent, always wanting to do a little bit more. Cutting down on those walks is one of the things he'd like to improve on. 8 so far in 3 starts. Jeff Bannister, his manager, admits he might be a little surprised by how well he has slid into this Rangers rotation. Hopefully he'll keep it up here tonight, guys. All
right, and thank you. Yeah, look for something good from AJ tonight, and he is going to face a Yankee lineup that got to the Rangers last night for their trademark, the home run. They have hit 20 home runs as a team. That's 8th in the American League, hitting just 241. The Yankees, though, are 10th with runs scored, and look like they are on the upswing just a bit offensively. So Ellsbury steps in, about ready to get underway. A.J. Griffin goes to work. The first pitch is outside for ball 1. Ellsbury had his first home run of the year last night. 1 ball and 1 strike on the check swing. I give you the matchups between A.J. Griffin and the Yankee hitters, but they really don't mean much. The last time that A.J. faced any of these guys was back in 2013. Just missed the inside corner. Pretty good breaking ball that time, and it's 2-1.
Yeah, that's one when you make that pitch, you hope to get a call to strike. He tried to throw that, looked like a cutter or slider right on the fist. Got the call there in the upper part of the strike zone. Could have gotten a call before it. Borderline pitch.
2-2 now. Rangers come into play tonight at 10-10. That ball hit well to center field. Chases Delino to Shields back. Just stepping onto the warning track to make the grab. Delino gets it for out number 1. We'll take a look at the rest of the Yankee lineup. Tom has that for you.
Yeah, you saw Jacoby Ellsbury fly out. Brett Gardner's batting second again. Carlos Beltran is in right field. He DH'd last night. Mark Teixeira gets the start at DH. Brian McCann back in the lineup. He's the catcher. Starlin Castro with a long home run last night. He's batting sixth. At second, Dustin Ackley moves from right field to first base. Didi Gregorius is the shortstop. And Ronald Torreyes gets the start at third base in place of Chase Headley.
And Joe Girardi in his 9th season at the helm of the Yankees. Brett Gardner, 268, with a couple of home runs and 4 driven in. I told you last night about Brett Gardner really loves to hit in this ballpark. A.J. Griffin, as Emily told you, his 4th start of the year. He's 2-0 with a fine 3.18 ERA, and look at that opponent's batting average. That is outstanding, a 2.03 mark. 2-1, the count to Gardner. Yankees, of course, very good speed at the top of the order with Ellsbury and Gardner. Changeup floats outside. The count moves to 3-1. So Gardner hitting second, followed by the right fielder Carlos Beltran. Yankees come in at 8-10. They are still in last place in the Eastern Division. Ian Desmond toward the line and in. 2 fly balls, 2 outs. And let's take a look at the rest of the Ranger defense, delivered to you tonight by DeMontron RV. Saw Ian Desmond in left field. You also saw Delino DeShields in center. Nomar Mazara celebrating his birthday in right. Mitch Moreland, Rougned Odor on the right side. Elvis Andrus, Adrian Beltre on the left side. And again, Brett Nicholas behind the plate. Carlos Beltran, check swing. It was ruled no swing. The appeal down to third. Jim Reynolds shaking his head. Beltran, the switch hitter, a .265 overall average. 4 home runs, 9 driven in. 2-0. Just a .292 on base percentage for Beltran, so not a whole lot of walks mixed in there either. 2-1. A.J. Griffin, last time out, helped the Rangers finish off that sweep against the Astros. He matched up against Dallas Keuchel. Rangers did their part offensively and staked him to a lead. That ended up being a 7-4 Ranger win. That was Thursday, right here in this ballpark. On the inside corner.
Good pitch.
That looked like, yeah, that looked like the cutter. Our Kubota Power Stats tonight talking about A.J. Griffin. He has been very good the last 2 starts. Just a .175 opponent batting average. Hit hard, but right there is the third baseman, Adrian Beltre. Only guy on that side, and had to be a line drive right at him. 3 up, 3 down, all 3 balls in the air. Half an inning in the books, no score. Over to the top of the first, Rangers coming to bat. Tom Grieve is going to tell you about the Southwest Airlines Rangers batting order.
Rougned Odor is in the leadoff spot again. Nomar Mazara is batting second again. Adrian Beltre is at third. Prince Fielder back as the DH. Ian Desmond is batting fifth. Mitch Moreland is at first base. Elvis Andrus is the shortstop. Brett Nicholas, with his first home run in last night's ballgame, gets to start again today. And Delino DeShields will bat ninth in center field.
And that lineup faces the hard-throwing young right-hander, 22-year-old Luis Severino. Severino last year, the youngest pitcher to start a game in the major leagues. This year, the youngest pitcher to start a game in the major leagues. Throws hard, should be right up the Rangers' alley if they can gear on that fastball. They haven't seen guys in the last several games that throw a lot of fastballs in the strike zone. A lot of off-speed stuff, and they have had their problems. Maybe tonight will get them back on track. Rougned Odor again in the leadoff spot. He pops this one up. Over to take a look is actually the first baseman. That's back into the seats about 3 rows. 1 ball and 1 strike to Rougned. Remember we talked last night about Jeff Manager saying he wanted to get a little more at the top of the lineup with the right-handers going for the Yankees. Get a little more thump up there, and so he moved Delino DeShields down to the 9th spot, put Odor in the leadoff spot. Same thing tonight. See how that works out this evening. 97 under the armpits. 2-1. Odor at 233 for the year. Couple of home runs, second on the team with 13 RBI. Gardner toward the line. One gone.
Definitely seeing plenty of fastball. He came into the game averaging 95.6 miles per hour. That's the fourth best for a starting pitcher in Major League Baseball. His slider and his changeup are 89 miles an hour, so everything's hard.
Take a look at the rest of the Yankee defense, brought to you by T-Mobile tonight. You saw Brett Gardner in left, Jacoby Ellsbury in center, and Carlos Beltran tonight in right field. Destin Ackley moving all over the diamond. Gets to start at first. Carlin Castro at second. Gregorius and Torreyes on the left side of the diamond, with Brian McCann catching young Luis Severino. Well, happy birthday, Nomar Mazara. 21 years old today. And there's a birthday present right out of the chute. So Mazara, who broke up Eovaldi's no-hitter last night, I should say, in the 7th inning, takes care of it very early tonight.
Well, in a lot of at-bats, he'll take a couple of pitches, maybe take a strike. He took one out of the strike zone, then got a fastball with a little bit of tailing action, but it tailed right out over the plate for him, and he hit that with some authority in left field, line shot. I've seen him do that a number of times this year. Hit solid balls to left field.
That is a good, quick, short stroke that he has going. Here's Adrian. Talk about a guy that likes to hit fastballs. Beltre among the league leaders, as usual, hitting fastballs. 303 overall this year with 3 home runs and 12 driven in. 37-year-old Adrian Beltre playing as well as, well, I think he has in a Ranger uniform, at least at the start of any of the seasons. Been a Ranger since 2011. And in the past, he has battled injury problems from spring training through the first month or even 2 of the season. This year, knock on wood, he has not been bothered by anything. Ackley, underhand Severino covering. Beltre out into scoring position with 2 outs. Nomar Mazara and Prince Fielder coming up.
That looked like a slider, but it's still a very hard pitch. Caused Adrian to hit it kind of off the end of the bat.
Yeah, Severino's slider almost looks like a cut fastball. It doesn't have that sweeping type break. Very quick, short break. From what I understand, we have not seen it before. When he gets on top of that slider, it also goes down a second plane, a vertical plane, and that makes it really tough throwing that hard. Hasn't really learned the ability yet to back off any of the pitches, so everything is close to 100% effort. Well, here's Prince. Got on top of a high fastball last night for a double. Yankees in almost a complete overshift. Gregorius, the shortstop, just a step or so on the shortstop side of second. So pretty good hole at that shortstop position, which we've seen Prince slap that ball through in run scoring opportunities. 2-0. Good look at that hole on the left side with third baseman Torreyes having to play fairly close to the bag. He's not able to take a huge position off the third base line because of Mazara being at second. Prince still the team leader with 14 runs driven in, a 187 average, as he hits here with 2 outs in the first. Two and one. That was the changeup coming in there at 92. But I guess when your fastball is 97, 98, you take 5 or 6 miles an hour off, and that's an effective changeup, change of pace. I hate to call that a changeup. Would you say it's a change of pace? Kind of like the Felix Hernandez changeup. 91 miles an hour, and the bottom falls out of it. This doesn't have quite that movement. 3-1 now. Severino not really interested in giving Prince too much to work with. Fielder batting fourth. Behind him is the left fielder Ian Desmond. Yankees, you remember winning last night's ball game. Nathan Eovaldi really pitching a dandy. Cesar Ramos acquitted himself very nicely for the Rangers. There's a base hit to left center. Mazara being waved around third will score without a throw, and Prince Fielder doing what he does best, driving in a run. The Rangers on top 1-0.
It looked like Severino was pitching, and he was, very carefully to Prince through the 3-1 count. And then he threw him a 97-mile-an-hour fastball, and Prince did the same thing that Mazara did. Same pitch, tailing away, outside part of the plate, drove it into left center field. So 2 well-hit base hits. Nomar moved to second on the infield out. Rangers score first.
You know, Severino has only walked 1 hitter this year. He's very, very cognizant of the walk. That may have played against him in that position. Sometimes you get so aware of, hey, I don't want to walk a guy, that when it's more prudent to not mess around with the strike zone, you're just dialed into throwing strikes, and that cost him with Fielder taking advantage.
No, even last year when he was a year younger, he had pretty good control, which you wouldn't, I guess, expect for a 21, 22-year-old guy throwing 95 to 98 miles an hour.
Right.
You expect him to have some control problems, but he can pound the strike zone.
But I think one thing that plays into that, Tom, and what we talked about, not a big variation in his off-speed pitch, what he calls off-speed pitch in his fastball. So a little bit easier for him to control all those once he zeroes in on the strike zone. High and tight to Desmond. You know, guys that throw, say, a bigger breaking slider or a curveball tend to get out of whack with that a little more easily than a guy that throws almost the same speed every time.
Yeah.
2-1 to Desmond. Ian catching up with things. A 191 average now. A couple of home runs, 6 driven in. Here's the slider or cutter, whatever you like to call it. 2-2. This is the first time Luis Severino has faced the Rangers. Just had 11 starts last year with the Yankees. Boy, almost to a man. Throw this Ranger team a fastball. It doesn't matter whether it's 90 or 97 or 100. They're going to have a pretty good hack at it.
Yeah, the hitters today, if they're timing your fastball, it doesn't matter what the speed is. They're going to be able to turn it around at 97. Last night, Eovaldi had the splitter to go along with it, and it kept him off that 98-mile-an-hour fastball.
Force at second, that'll do it for the Rangers. But Fielder's RBI driving home the birthday boy, Nomar Mazara. We'll go to the second. Rangers on top, 1-0 on Fox Sports Southwest. One nothing after a run in the bottom of the first inning. A.J. Griffin back to the mound facing Mark Teixeira in the middle third of the Yankee order. Teixeira handling DH chores tonight, a .238 average overall, evening the count at 1-1. Tex 3 home runs, 9 driven in. Came up with the Rangers back in 2003. Twisting down the left field line back into the seats. And it's a ball and 2 strikes.
Nice play by a Yankee fan down there.
Crowd filling in little by little, although I've got to think that the weather forecast kind of deterred anybody that was maybe thinking about not coming out.
Yeah, if you were thinking this morning, they made it sound like it was going to rain much earlier.
Did he go around? Yes, he did. AJ going upstairs, and Tex couldn't stop it. 1 gone. And Brian McCann coming up, but first we're going to welcome in Jim Knox.
All right, Buzz. Hey, pretty good night here for baseball. And this Ranger fan already polished him off a boomstick, got him a Rusty Greer jersey. He's in business. And real quick, father-son night here at the ballpark for you guys. Where are you from?
Camp, Texas.
All right, great to have you guys here. Enjoy the game. And we can't forget this, Buzz and Tom. It's Fritz Dyker, our social media guru's birthday. Happy 25th birthday, Fritz.
Thanks,
there we go.
Foxy.
And then look for his post on Fox Sports Southwest social media. Big guru right there. Let's see, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, you name it. He's got it covered.
And who said that Nomar Mazara was the only famous one celebrating a birthday tonight?
Oh, good, Mike.
Happy birthday, Fritz. When you come back up here, we'll sing for you, or at least light a candle for you. Breaking ball to Brian McCann, drops in. It's 2 balls and a strike. McCann, who did not play last night, hitting at .280. Off to a pretty good start. 3 home runs, 7 driven in. 2-2. McCann, big free agent signed by the Yankees prior to the 2014 season. Each of the last 8 years, 20 or more home runs from McCann. Boy, AJ nailing down that inside corner, now has back-to-back strikeouts, 2 away.
You know, Buzz, in the other games that AJ's pitched, he's used that cutter into the left-handers a lot. And in some of the games, he's just a little bit off the plate with it and hasn't gotten the call. Today, he's starting to locate it on the inside part of the plate, and the Yankees have taken it several times. That was well in the strike zone.
Yep.
So that's a really good pitch for him.
Starlene Castro fouls off that first pitch. Castro, a home run last night, also his 3rd of the year. Boy, that is a big box of popcorn for her. But she's making a pretty good effort at it.
She's not like a big person.
I saw my dad do this. I thought I might try it myself.
I'll get some big mouthfuls.
Mitch Moreland through the coach's box. Wind has that one, but Mitch able to stay with it. And it's a 1-2-3 inning. 6 straight now set down by AJ Griffin. We finished an inning and a half. It's the Rangers 1, the Yankees nothing on Fox Sports Southwest. Texas Ranger Baseball on Fox Sports Southwest is brought to you by your Texas Ford dealers. Visit your local Texas Ford dealer today for incredible deals and see why Ford is the best in Texas. Mitch Moreland stepping in to lead off the Rangers second. Luis Severino fires strike one. Moreland at .222 with the average. A couple of home runs, 5 driven in. Mitch kind of gone silent, and his silence really follows right along with that 4-game losing streak. Mitch, one of the key cogs in that sweep of the Astros here last week. And then somebody turned out the lights on his offense. Mitch now 1 for 14. Oh-2 pitch on the way. And despite that dry spell as far as base hits are concerned, Mitch still has reached base safely in 14 of the 16 games that he's played in. Staying alive with that foul tip. Still a ball and 2 strikes. Well, the Rangers coming into play tonight, .246 team average. That has dropped down significantly, hitting just .178 during this 4-game losing streak. But they're still 7th in the league, so right in the middle of the pack. 3rd in runs scored with 82. Got him swinging.
That's a changeup.
Yep.
That was a good changeup, even though it was 91 miles an hour. It had some good location and some good movement. Very good pitch.
First strikeout for Severino. Now Elvis Andrus coming up.
And as you said, Buzz, when you're throwing 97 and the changeup comes in at 91, that's a pretty good differential. Maybe not ideal, but with that location it is.
Yeah, and that kind of movement.
Yeah.
First pitch to Elvis, hangs inside to him. Andrus hitting at .317. 11 runs driven in here in the early going for Elvis. That .317 average, 9th in the American League. A ball and a strike. Had good luck last year against the Yankees, hitting .310 in the 7 games. Good look at the threatening skies to the southwest of Globe Life Park. Rain forecast to well, probably hold off until 9:30 or 10 o'clock tonight, hopefully. Hopefully we can get this ball game in and Rangers can maintain their lead that they enjoy right now. There's that figure we were talking about last year against the Yankees for Elvis. Up the middle, and that is a base hit.
The Rangers have 3 well-hit singles to left field on 97-mile-an-hour fastballs. Zara, Fielder, and Andrus. And they've all been pretty much right there, up near the middle of the plate. Great swings, hard hit balls.
You know, I've got to think when the Rangers got back home after that trip to Chicago, there were a bunch of guys that looked at the pitching matchups and had to feel pretty pumped up about getting a guy like Eovaldi and then Severino, guys that you know are going to throw hard, but a lot of fastballs. Unfortunately, last night, Eovaldi was able to pitch backwards a bit, and he had a good slider and a good splitter. And those are the equalizers against anybody.
Yep, that's for sure. And as you said, Buzz, when we were talking before the game, he went out of his way not to locate his fastball out over the plate for them to get a good pitch to hit at.
Nathan Eovaldi, and a couple of comments from the Yankee broadcasters after the ball game last night. They said that's the best that they have seen him throw. And it just happened. Oop, Elvis kind of stumbling, almost came off the bag. Line last night for Nathan Eovaldi, just 2 base hits. Didn't give up a hit until Nomar Mazara's 7th inning single. 2 walks, 6 strikeouts. Nicholas up the middle for the double play, and that'll do it. 4-6-3, and the Rangers are gone here in the second. No runs a hit, nobody left. After 2, the Rangers won, the Yankees nothing on Fox Sports Southwest. Jake Griffin back to the hill with the Rangers leading 1-0 here in the third, and real treat for us to have the Senior Director of Player Development with us in the booth. That would be Mike Daly. Mike, thanks for coming by. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me, Buzz. Appreciate it.
Boy, great times for the Rangers organization as a whole. Gotten off to a great start in the minor leagues, and you've got to be very proud of that stuff.
Absolutely. You know, we got the best winning percentage in minor league baseball. Obviously, like the most important game is right here in Arlington every night, but it's been exciting to see a number of guys take a step forward here. Guys that we were excited about spring training, see them take it out to the season here over the first couple of weeks. So it's been great.
You know, one thing that Buzz and I talked to each other about all during the time we were in spring training were the great prospects that you guys had in spring training. They're all 6'4". They're all athletes. I mean, the ceiling looks high for all of them. How are guys like Gallo Profar getting off to a starts this year in the minor leagues?
It's been outstanding for both Jurickson and for Joey. Something that Joey has done year in and year out throughout his careers. He's gone to a level. He struggled just a little bit, but he's made off-season adjustments. Then he's gone back to that AA level or AAA level this year, and he's made clear improvements with his bat, with his approach, with his defense. And then Jurickson, we're just thrilled to have him on the field. He's played 13 games so far on at shortstop, and he's been healthy and he's been good, and the at-bats have been very good, and he's been productive. But the most important thing on Jurickson is that he's healthy and he's at the ballpark every day. So it's been great to see his smile on his face and see him playing every day down there in Round Rock.
Look at the numbers for the both of them, and Joey Gallo, again, we know about the home run capability, but that 1138 OPS has got to be pretty encouraging too.
Well, he did it again last night. Hit 2 home runs there for Round Rock and Memphis, including a go-ahead one in the 12th inning. Spoke to our AAA manager, said that combined probably about 900 feet worth of home runs. So he never leaves a doubt. But I just think the consistency of his at bats, he's walking more, he's controlling the strike zone. His defense at third base has been outstanding, and that team's off to a very good start there in Round Rock, in large part because of Joey and Jurickson.
Mike, from your experience, that's going to be strike 3, slow curveball. From your experience, how difficult is it when you have a minor league hitter and one of the goals that you have for him is to cut down on his strikeouts, not swing it as many pitches out of the strike zone, and increase his walk rate? How difficult is that for a player?
I think it's a lot of credit first and foremost to the player. The player, obviously, Joey, and you also talk about Lewis Brinson, guys that are physically gifted, but guys that have aptitude, and guys that want to be good. And as they continue to get experience, as you continue to put them in those at bats and those situations, they're smart.
Seems to happen.
And it just seems to happen. And
is there more to it than just telling them they need to do it? Are there things that you talk about or have them do physically, mentally during a game to accomplish that? Or is it just on-the-job training?
It's not on-the-job training. I think it's a tremendous job by our hitting coaches. They're there, each at-bat, they're talking to them about the at-bat. These guys are going up there, with the plan. They continue to cultivate their plan.
Right.
They talk to them, batting practice. They go over their video, after every game. So
there's a lot going on.
There's a lot that goes on to get these guys ready for a 7 o'clock. And ultimately, it's on these guys to be willing to make an adjustment, and it's on these guys to understand that, they're more than just sluggers, and they want to be really good hitters. And when you have guys like we have, Brinson and Gal and Jerks and a lot of other players on the minor league side that want to be complete hitters, that they understand that it's about grinding out at bats, controlling the strike zone, using the opposite field, and then really driving pitches when they're in the zone.
Yeah, you're talking about the guys that we hear a lot about, Gallo and Brinson too, and Profar. A guy that came up here that, I know he was high on the list. Nomar Mazara, I'm talking about. He was on everybody's list, but he seemed to be a little behind a couple of the other guys as far as notoriety. Well, can you hang on?
Absolutely.
We'll finish the question next half inning, I hope.
Not a problem. Love to.
All right. Base hit, but nothing else for the Yankees. 2.5 in the books. Rangers leading 1-0 on Fox Sports Southwest. Rain has materialized. A few pretty good-sized drops are chasing folks back under the overhang. Folks without umbrellas, and it gives us a chance to play is obviously not stopped, but talking to Mike Daly. Mike, we talk about all the quality prospects in the minor leagues. Nomar Mazara, maybe not as much notoriety as say, Joey Gallo or Jerks and Profar. He got to the big leagues, and both Tom and I are amazed at how mature he looks as a player, and not just being able to hit the ball occasionally and things like that. He's playing great defense. He has a good sense on the base paths, and his approach to hitting is, like a 28-year-old.
Yeah, he's always been a very mature young man. Even when we signed him at 16 years old, and to his credit, he made some physical adjustments with his swing in the minor leagues. Some help of Bobby Rose, who's a minor league hitting instructor for us. He's in High Desert, and Scott Coolball, who was our minor league hitting coordinator, now the hitting coach for the Baltimore Orioles, where he kind of quieted down his leg kick, went to a little bit of a toe tap that allowed him to see the pitches better. And he really took off there in Hickory when we sent him back there to a Hickory, and I mean it's been like a straight shot, quick jump up to Double-A. Had an outstanding Double-A season last year. into Major League camp and really impressed the Major League coaches from a day one, not only with his approach, his defense, but how he is as a person. So something that we're certainly, very proud of on the minor league side, to see him graduate and see the success that he's having at the major league level.
Based on the kind of things you're saying about the players we're asking you about, the unsung heroes are the people nobody knows, and those are the guys that are helping them make those changes in the minor leagues. You have to be pretty happy with your staff in the minor leagues as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that first and foremost it comes like on the scouting side. There's like a lot of work that's done by our scouts to get to know players, to get to know their aptitude, to get to know what they're about, to see them in games, to really put in the work, and then to be able to sign them and turn them over to our player development department. It's very dedicated. These guys work unbelievable hours in spring training, during the season, instructional league, and then you see like the fruits of the labor. There are a lot of guys that later round draft picks that are here on the field. Ryan Rua, Brett Nicholas, Phil Klein, all these guys that have come through our system that are contributing here on a nightly basis to a winning team in Arlington.
The fans that are watching might be interested. When Buzz and I played, we had a manager, maybe a player, coach, and one trainer. So we had 2 full-time and 1 full-time part-time guy. What's a staff like on a minor league team now?
Well, it continues to grow year in and year out. We have a manager. We have Jason Wood in AAA, Joe Micklett in a AA, Howard Johnson in High Desert, and Steve Mintz is in Hickory. And then we have a pitching coach, a hitting coach. We have a full-time trainer. We have a full-time strength and conditioning coach. And then we've also started to hire interns at each level that are good for data collecting and to
So you're doing
take
that
video.
type of stuff even in the minor leagues?
Absolutely.
Do you have scouting reports on minor league teams when you play them in the minor leagues?
We have an idea. We don't do like a advanced report like they do here at the major league level. We'll have like a general idea of what type of pitches the pitcher throws, what the general velocity is he a curveball guy or slider guy? Does he throw his changeup? So we'll have like a general idea, but the minor league level is really about the individual player and what their plan is and what we're looking to do to develop those guys, either offensively, defensively, mentally, physically, all the way around.
Yeah, talking about the prospects, Nomar Mazara, obviously a great physical specimen. The other guy I mentioned, Lewis Brinson, also, as Tom said, those guys 6'4" and about 215 pounds. They run like gazelles. I mean, it's just amazing where you come up with them. But Brinson, and also Matt Bush, who really battled some life problems, and you signed him. When we saw him in spring training, he looked fantastic.
Yeah, very impressive. I think first on Lewis, you look back at that 2012 draft class with Joey Gallo, Nick Williams, Lewis Brinson, and then also Ronald Guzman and Nomar Mazara that we had signed a year earlier. But that whole team on the 2012 AZL Rangers was very impressive. And Lewis is continues to take those steps. He had like a number of like a punch outs when he was a younger player, but he's cut down on that. He's using the opposite field. He looks tremendous in a uniform. He can play center field, play a premium spot. And then Matt Bush is a real good scouting job by Roy Silver. He's in our organization. He's done a really good job there in Frisco, pitching out of the bullpen, and we're very happy with where Matt is, and just kind of taking it day by day with him up there in Frisco. But he's been outstanding since we've signed him, and he's been really good on the mound and really good off the field as well.
Well, we talked about the people we know. Is there anyone, maybe even the lower minor leagues, who's off to a great start that we should know about?
I think one other guy there in Frisco is Ryan Cordell.
Sure.
Another, 6'3", 200 pound athlete, can really run. Plays a center field as well, but we have to bounce him off to left field or right field because Lewis Brinson is there. But he was the Texas League Player of the Week last week. But another guy that has a combination of defense and hitability and speed and power, and he's done a really good job. So, Lewis Brinson is a guy to definitely keep an eye on here for Ranger fans moving forward.
Well, Nomar is celebrating his birthday in style tonight, 2 for 2.
Yeah, it's a good 21st birthday there for Nomar.
Not bad. Well, here's some minor leaguers for the High Desert. A-ball, some guys that are really putting up numbers to get started this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Johanner Mendez was a guy who you guys saw in Major League camp on the 40-man roster. But Mendez, Gerardo, and Luis Ortiz are 3 young pitchers that we're very excited about. They're guys that we sent on a very difficult mission to go pitch in high desert, like the best, hitters park in baseball.
Right.
But, something that we feel is important for their development to go through that
Sure.
adversity. There are going to be some times that they make some really good pitches and give up some cheap hits and some cheap home runs, but to come back and to compete and to, find a way. So we feel like
Over Beltran's head. Beltre shooting one to right field. Mazzara will stop at third. Beltre with a stand-up double, second and third and 2 outs for Prince Fielder. And Adrian continuing to hit the ball hard.
it's amazing when you watch Adrian Beltre. What an unbelievable player.
He looks like he's getting younger.
It's amazing.
Hasn't made an error this year. Pounding the ball. Now, Dylan Tate had a minor injury. Is that correct?
He did. He was conditioning and he had a little tightness in his hamstring. We just wanted to make sure that we were super cautious with them. So we just skipped him one start. No issues. He's going to be coming back here to a pitch in a few days. But
Good.
it was a guy that is in Hickory. He's had a very good start there. A guy that we're excited about. But obviously, early in the season, no need to risk it or anything like that. His arm is great. He's been working very hard, and he'll be back on the mound very soon. And then another guy from that draft class, Michael Machuela, the young man that we took out of the third round from Duke, had Tommy John surgery last April, but he's a guy who will be coming off of ready to pitch in games probably mid-June.
Good.
With an eye towards Spokane, see if he can get out there, maybe be the opening day starter there in a Spokane, but a guy that we're real excited about. We've seen him play catch. We've seen him do his bullpens out there in Arizona. He's somebody that we're very excited about. His goal, this year is to get his innings there in Spokane.
Well, with no injury, then he's looking at being a top first-round pick, right?
Definitely.
Top of the first round?
Definitely. I know that he was a guy that Kip Fagg, our amateur scouting director, was really looking at for that 4th overall pick last year. But then he had Tommy John surgery mid-April. Unfortunately, his draft stock fell, but we were lucky enough to get him in the 3rd round and sign him, and he's been.
It's not like there hasn't been a lot of success coming back from Tommy John surgery.
So no, not at all.
You might end up with an extra first-round pick.
Hopefully, that's the goal. But he's been really good, and he's a guy that head up to the Northwest League. Hopefully, get about 60, 70 innings, and really excited to see him next year in spring training.
Great.
Rangers with the bases full here, trying to add on. They lead 1-0. Ian Desmond with the 0-1 pitch. Well, looking at the organization as a whole, what do you see going into the draft as a need for the organization? Is there anything you look at from the need standpoint going into this year's draft?
That's a great question. I think it's really tough to kind of go into a draft and draft based on need, especially where we're drafting, down at the bottom, which is always your goal, year in and year out. That means that you had like a really successful major league season. So I know Kip and the amateur scouts are out there, grinding it out. I have no doubt that it's going to be somebody that's very interesting, whether it's a position player or a pitcher, but a guy that is an athlete, is a baseball player, has got real aptitude, that wants to be good, that we know not only on the field but also off the field. So,
what number was Brinson taken?
Brinson was a 29th overall pick that year.
That's a pretty good pick for 29.
That's a heck of a pick.
If he was in the draft this year, he'd be top 2 or 3 probably.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. He was the 29th pick, and then Joey was the 39th pick, and Nick Williams was a 2nd round pick, and
the scouts do a great job. You come up with those kind of players.
They do a great job. They do a great job, year in and year out. And we got a really good scouting group and very good player development department. So it's real exciting when you see guys come through the system, see them graduate here to Arlington, and then help us win games. That's a win for everybody in the organization.
And I'll ask you one more question. It's probably going to end the inning right here. But have you guys gotten things pretty well stylized from the big leagues down through the rest of the organization? Jeff Bannister talked about that, about being one big family. Has that come into play yet?
Definitely. I think that you can see it on the major league staff. You look at the number of coaches that have come through our minor league department: Steve Buechele, Hector Ortiz, Jace Tingler, Spike Owen at third base, Brad Holman out there in the bullpen. I mean, there's real cohesion between the major league side and the minor league side. I think it's a big credit to Vanny. When he came over, he wanted our coaches in the minor league system, the ones that, you know, knew our players, to be on the major league staff, and to allow a number of younger coaches in our system to grow and mature. But there's real cohesion between our major league and our minor league staff. So it's real exciting.
Well, Mike, from talking to you, thanks so much for being with us, but from talking to you, after the success the organization has had at the big league level, you probably traded 10 or 15 top prospects.
Sure.
To be talking about this group in the minor leagues, pretty remarkable, the turnaround in a short period of time.
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, it just goes back to the people who we have in the organization, the scouts and the player development people.
Well, Buzz, you'd mentioned that Severino had only walked one batter all season long. He walked Prince to load the bases and then walked in Desmond to force in a run.
Oh, yeah, Tom, that's one of the things, again, go back to the intentional walk that he gave to Prince Fielder. Sometimes it's difficult, especially for a young pitcher, to get himself back in gear after throwing 4 consecutive intentionally out of the strike zone. A little bit hard to pick up that aggressiveness that you had even just one hitter before, and it looked like Severino just off enough to allow Desmond to get the RBI on the walk.
They made one pitch on 2-2 that was borderline pitch, I guess you'd say, that maybe you get a little bit lucky and get a call to go your way.
Larry Rothschild, the pitching coach, out there to talk to his 22-year-old right-hander. Mike, we appreciate you coming in. Anything else that you wanted to kind of get across to the folks? This is not the last time we're going to have you on now, believe me. You've become a regular on our show.
No, I just think that, you know, Mitch Moreland here with a big base knock coming up here, kind of clear the bases. And
there you go.
I
that's
like
the only
it.
thing I would add.
We've got a call. Mike has made the call right here. Tell you what, if he does that, we're going to keep you on for the next inning, too.
Mitch could use a base hit, though. He's scuffling a little bit at the plate. Be a great time to get a Beltre, Fielder, and Desmond third, second, and first. Rangers on top, 2-0, looking for more. Mitch has got to be saying, what happened to that fastball? That's what I was looking for.
How much time will you spend watching the minor league teams, Mike?
I'll spend, you know, probably 15 days a month, you know, out seeing all of our guys, and you know, we, you know, bouncing around, you know, going to AA, going to AAA, you know, high, low A. So we have a number of coordinators. We got a new, we have like a Corey Ragsdale, who oversees, like, you know, all of our coaches, who's out there all the time. Danny Clark is our pitching coordinator, longtime pitching coordinator, has built that program, has been outstanding.
Sure.
A number of guys that have come through our system. You know, Danny Clark has really impacted.
There you go. Right there. Here comes Beltre. Fielder right behind him.
It's only a single, so we're not going to keep you any longer.
That's what he predicted.
It was still a nice call. Oh, you predicted a single? I thought you said a double. All right, you got to stay. Sorry.
Hey, we'll take it.
Nice go. Yeah, you betcha.
Good job by Mitch.
Yeah, going right back up the big part of the ballpark. 2 RBI. Moreland now with 7 for the year. The Rangers increase the lead to 4-0.
But just to finish, like, real quick, you know, Danny Clark is our pitching coordinator. He's been outstanding, been in the organization for 11 years. Josue Perez has been in our, you know, in our organization for 10 years as a hitting coach. He's our hitting coordinator. Corey Ragsdale does an outstanding job, and, you know, all of our coaches, all of our coordinators, our medical staff, strength and conditioning coach, all our guys do an outstanding job. And very, very proud of those guys, and we're lucky to have them in the organization.
It's nice to have the consistency of longevity of people staying in the same organization. You know who to count on and what to expect from them, and the familiarity, I guess, really helps.
Well, I think the big part too is they want to be here. You know, I mean, they've had opportunities to, you know, join other organizations, but they want to be here.
And Desmond will score on the wild pitch. It is 5-0. You know, John Daniels is going to be jealous when he hears about this too. John always comes up in the top of the inning, and invariably the Rangers get scored upon. He said, I'm not coming back till I get the bottom. Well, you've already upstaged him here.
I'm not going to say anything to John Daniels. He's the boss right there. So,
well, you know, you deserve this kind of an inning, because in spring training, when you went to the game was that the Futures game, right?
Futures game, correct.
You had the longest inning, and it wasn't going our way.
It was not going our way. One of our young pitchers was out there a little bit kind of taking it on the chin, so I'm happy to watch us score as many runs as we can.
Well, you got a long inning, but it's on our side, so you've deserved this one.
This is well worth it.
Action now just picking up out in the Yankee bullpen. Yates out there getting that arm loose. Kirby Yates. Moreland now at second base. And Elvis, who singled sharply to center his first time up, just chopped one sharply off his front foot. How about this? Elvis, runners in scoring position, the best average in the American League at 529 this year. 11 RBI, 10 of them have come in this situation. Three and two. All of a sudden, Severino about ready to throw his 69th pitch of the night here in the third inning. Base hit to left. Moreland being waved around third. Gardner with a below-average arm can't get him. Throw back to first, and Elvis back in safely. An RBI single. Elvis does it again with runners in scoring position. It is 6-0 Rangers.
We'll take it there.
This is the fourth 5-run inning that the Rangers have had at home in just a short period of time.
Yep.
Another well-hit ball by Elvis. That ball got to Gardner in left field quickly, which is nice to make a throw. The problem is it got to him so quickly, he's too deep to make the throw. Hits the cutoff man on a bounce, but no chance to make the play at the plate.
And that's a real killer, too. It's like full count, like a tremendous at-bat by Elvis, and then get the base hit after making Severino throw 6 pitches. So.
Sure.
Yep. Little anxiety going on there. Larry Rothschild and Joe Girardi saying, okay, what do we do now? Brett Nicholas, and he takes ball 1. Brett's had a great time coming to the big leagues. It was very touching to see how his family and friends up there in Seattle able to be there for his first assignment in the major league and get a couple of hits.
Absolutely, but he was a young man that came into the organization in 2010 as a 6th-round pick, and level by level, year by year, grinding it out, played at every level, been an outstanding human being, outstanding person, and just continues to swing the bat well, play good defense, and opened up like a ton of eyes there in Major League camp in Arizona. And when the time came, it was his time to get called up, and he's been really, really good up here. But a huge credit to Brett with just grinding it through for the last 6 years.
I guess a pretty good object lesson too for young players, or for anybody really, about not giving up. And Brett, a catcher by trade, then went away from catching because of the preponderance of catchers you had in front of him, and then he went back to it, and that's what his ticket was to the big leagues.
Definitely, and he never gave in. I mean, he was a guy that went to winter ball. He was a guy that would go out to instructional league as an older player out there in Arizona. He was willing to work at first base, willing to catch, willing to play any place. Continued to put together good at bats. Had to repeat levels. Had to fight through he had to fight through a lot of adversity.
Sure. And
to his credit, he's here, and I think all of that stuff that he went through in the minor leagues, getting here to this point, really prepared him for this opportunity.
Right center field, Beltran trying to track it, and he dives and gets it. Brett Nicholas almost with extra bases there. That'll do it for the Rangers, but they put a 5 spot on the board, and after 3 leaves, 6-0. Mike, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate the time.
Thank you so much, Buzz. Appreciate it.
Fun to watch that minor league system.
Good job.
Keep it going. We'll go to the 4th. Rangers up by 6 now. The Rangers live on MLB.com at Bat app. You can stay up to the moment at any moment with game day and live game video highlights, StatCast, news, and a whole lot more. Download MLB.com at Bat, the #1 app for live baseball on your smartphone or tablet.
You know, Buzz, we had Mike for a long half an inning, and we asked him just about every question we could think of about the minor leagues, but there's one I missed. One of our loyal followers watches every game, Rusty Greer.
Yeah.
He wanted us to ask how valuable is Darren Oliver in the organization.
There you go.
Of course, that's Rusty's ex-roommate.
Right.
And I got a pretty good idea what Mike's answer would have been. Very valuable. But
I'm going to write that one down so the next time we get Mike or JD or whomever on here, we can ask him that.
We ought to invite Rusty up anytime he wants to come up here. Welcome to come up for a half an inning.
If he's going to send us questions, you got to come up here and ask a few.
Come on up.
Now, Brett Gardner starts the fourth off by flying to left field. Carlos Beltran is next. And before Beltran steps in, we're going to send it over to John Radigan for a Chevy game break. All right, John, thank you.
Boy, the Sox have won 4 straight. If they win today, it'll be 5. First place ahead of Kansas City.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive early in the season for the White Sox.
Pitching, and a few runs here and there.
Yeah, now they're starting to score.
Yeah.
They scored a bunch of runs late to win yesterday. They got 7 today. And that's basically with nothing from Abreu, their biggest hitter.
Right. Beltran skies out to Ian Desmond in left. Desmond has made the first 2 outs, 2 away. And Mark Teixeira coming up. Boy, A.J. Griffin has just been outstanding. 44 pitches. He has 2 outs here in the 4th inning.
Yeah, early in the game, maybe the first 10 or 12 pitches, he had even strikes with balls, and now he's opened up a big gap. 30 strikes, 14 balls. He is pounding the zone so far.
Mark Teixeira went down swinging his first time up. Griffin with 3 strikeouts. And just missed the outer edge. 2-0. Sky high pop up on the left side. Beltran.
Does he see it?
Fighting the wind. He sees it, but he's staggering underneath it and stays with it. That is a veteran move right there to be able to stay with that thing.
That was moving around up there in a tough sky to see it in the first place.
One of those plays he was playing over by shortstop, had a long way to go and a tough wind to fight. 3 up, 3 down. We'll go to the bottom of the 4th. Rangers leading the Yankees 6-0. The Rangers play the final game of a 3-game series against the Angels. And the first 7,500 kids, 13 and younger, get a Prince Fielder wiffle ball bat set. That's courtesy of McDonald's. Find your tickets at TexasRangers.com. You can call 972-Rangers. And great Prince Fielder wiffle ball and bat. Those guys look like they would like to play a little wiffle ball in the backyard, get that Prince Fielder going. Problem is, who gets to be Prince Fielder? I guess they have to alternate. Now, Ivan Nova has come out of the bullpen to take over. Nova, working out of the pen, has appeared in now 5 ball games. So Severino goes the first 3, and Nova facing Delino to Shields. The Shields tapped right back to the mound his first time up. Rangers 6 runs on 7 hits against Severino tonight. Gregorius fires the first, 1 out. And before Rougned Odor steps in, let's check in with Emily Jones.
You guys, when Rusty Greer asks a question, I listen and I get the answer. I texted Mike Daly, asked him just how valuable Darren Oliver is to the Rangers minor league system, and his response was really valuable, ton of knowledge invested in the kids. So there, Rusty Greer, is your answer.
Thank you, Em. Thanks, Em. We appreciate that. And Rusty appreciates that, no doubt.
I think Rusty already knew the answer.
Yeah, yeah. But it's nice to have confirmation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, Darren and Michael Young, Pudge, Rodriguez, all doing a lot of work. Mark McLemore, a lot of work with the guys in spring training. They have a great, Rangers have a lot of great interest from some of the alumni that take part in it. 2 hopper out to Castro, 2 gone. Rougned over 3. 2 outs, bases empty, and Nomar Mazara will now come up. Well, Mazara, I guess about the only thing he hasn't done is hit the ball out of the ballpark on his birthday. He singled twice, scored twice. Season average now up to 380, and this is not exactly a short sample anymore. He's been up since the 10th of the month, and shoots one this time, but Gregorius has to play a tricky hop on to first. That'll do it. Well, they finally get Mazara out. It's a 1-2-3 inning for Nova. We'll go on to the top of the 5th inning. Rangers on top of the Yankees 6-0 on Fox Sports Southwest. Texas Rangers baseball on Fox Sports Southwest is brought to you by Southwest Airlines. Transparency, low fares, nothing to hide. And by Mazda. In every car we make, you'll see why driving matters. Well, fans briefly under the overhang as the rain came down, but back in their seats now. It has gone past the ballpark. Hopefully it stays away until we conclude this ball game. Brian McCann starting things off. 1 ball and 1 strike. A.J. Griffin, through the first 4 innings, has allowed 1 base runner, with Ronald Torreyes with a 2-out single in the 3rd. Moreland will win that race to first base. 1 out.
Well, this is a perfect example of radar gun speeds and what they mean and what they don't mean. Yeah, AJ's fastball is 88 to 90, and they really haven't had a great swing at his fastball yet in the game. They've been a little bit behind it, and of course that has a lot to do with the other pitches he's throwing. Changeup, cutter, big slow curveball. But it's all boiled down to him pounding the strike zone and getting a lot of easy outs.
Starlin Castro takes a cutter on the outside corner for strike 1. Castro fouled out to Mitch Moreland his first time up. Yeah, and I know it gets kind of old when we talk about it, but you know, the art of pitching, messing up hitters' timing. There's a little looping drive right into the glove of Rougned Odor. 2 away. But perfect example tonight.
It is.
AJ is not standing out there saying, okay, here's my best fastball, I'm going to throw it by you. A little bit of this, a little bit of that, good control. And all of a sudden, an extra 2 or 3 miles an hour with movement on it. And hitters just can't center him up. And thinking back to before AJ had surgery when he was with Oakland, came up with that great young pitching staff that they had. He was maybe not the centerpiece, but right there at the top with him. Same kind of pitcher he is right now.
Yeah, this is exactly what when he went 14 and 10, this is what he did right now. This is exactly what he looked like.
The only difference I see is the cutter is a little bit better now. I don't think he threw it that much then, but you know, this is can you call a 28-year-old vintage A.J. Griffin?
Sure, sure. He had a couple a pretty good year and a half. He's 7-1, 14 and 10.
Out of play to the left.
Well, he's pitched at least 5 innings in 31 straight starts. This will be 32. There's only 2 other pitchers in the big leagues, Jake Arrieta, Madison Bumgarner, who have done that. Career ERA, 48 starts, 3.58 coming into the game. So, you know, he hasn't had a long career, but for what he's had, been pretty good.
Yeah, you put 21 wins in your belt in a year and a half. That's doing some work.
Sure is.
And he's just about ready to put another 5 innings in a book from a start. And that's something that even a shorter list of guys haven't done. This could be his 32nd straight start of 5 innings or more. And the list of people that have done more than that, grand total of 2. One would be Jake Arrieta. And the other would be a guy named Madison Bumgarner. Those are 2 pretty good guys to be on the same list with. To right field, Mazzara coming on, slides, makes the catch. Another birthday present for Nomar Mazzara, and a present for A.J. Griffin. A 1-2-3 inning. Nomar doing it all tonight with the bat and with the glove. 3 up, 3 down. We played half the ball game. Rangers leading the Yankees 6-0. Folks, the next Texas Chili Company Dollar Hot Dog Night is tomorrow night. See the Rangers take on these Yankees. Enjoy all the Texas Chili Company Dollar Hot Dogs you can eat for just $1 each. Tickets are available at TexasRangers.com. Adrian Beltre leading things off here for the Rangers against Ivan Nova. Bottom of the 5th inning, Beltre 1 out of 2, a double and a run scored. One ball, or 2 balls, and no strikes. Beltre facing the 29-year-old right-hander, Ivan Nova. Big guy at 6'5", about 235 pounds. A lot of starting experience, but right now working out of the bullpen for the Yankees. Beltre in his career has not had a whole lot of success against Nova, just 3 for 18. Sharply hit. Gregorius throws out Beltre, 1 away.
Gregorius can get some velocity with that sidearm throw. Usually when a guy throws from down under like that, there's a little loop to it, but he gets it over there with something on it.
That reminds you, you remember back in the 70s and 80s, all the shortstops that came from San Pedro de Macorís and threw from all over the place. Tony Fernandez comes to mind, but there are a couple of others in there too. They have the darndest throwing motions, but boy, they could zip it over there.
Yeah, Tony Fernandez is smooth. I used to love to watch him play.
Had about a 15-year run where guys grew up in San Pedro de Macorís and were playing on rock-laden fields. They could catch everything but it was off to the side.
Yeah.
and all threw accurately from almost anywhere. Prince Fielder, an RBI single and an intentional walk. 197 the average now for Prince. The RBI total up to a team high 15. Check swing, he did not go. Jim Reynolds down there at third, confirming the call. Prince coming into play tonight, tied for 7th in the league with 14 RBI, and he's up that by 1 here tonight. Two and one. Boy, a big overshift on. Yankees going out of their way to get loaded up on the right side. Gregorius, the shortstop, staying in his normal position, although he's shaded up the middle. Everybody else on the right side of the diamond. Second baseman Castro. Now that's beyond a rover spot out there in right field. 3-1 now. Well, with 1 out, Prince trying to get aboard. Ian Desmond is in the on-deck circle. Rangers with 1 in the first and then 5 in the third. Softly hit Ackley to Nova, out number 2. And before Ian Desmond steps in, let's send it once again over to John Radigan for a Chevy game break. All right, John, thank you. Ian Desmond got his 7th RBI of the year back in the third. He had a bases-loaded walk against Severino. Takes a Nova fastball in for strike 1. Desmond, 3 previous at-bats against Nova. He's gone 1 for 3. 0-2. Shot from up there in the second deck, right down the right field line. Our RF camera runs around Globe Life Park, giving you vantage points that you might enjoy when you come out to the park to watch the Rangers. Not a bad seat in the house, as they say. 1-2 now. Desmond, a 188 hitter. And Nova back to him. Hit well to center field. Going back is, excuse me, is Ellsbury. And that ball's gone. Ian Desmond rides it out of here right over the camera bay in dead center field. It choked me up. 7-0.
Yeah, he got an off-speed pitch. Shot it right out to left center over the camera well. Ian had a walk with the bases loaded. Back in the 3rd inning, and now a 5th inning home run. He's pumped up, feeling good. They all are.
The Rangers have been waiting 5 days for this to happen. They had been in a little bit of an offensive malaise, and tonight has taken care of that. Up and down the lineup pretty much. Mitch Moreland 1 out of 2 with a couple of runs driven in. Mitch was trying to go back to back. How about Ian Desmond? Home run number 3.
Bottom of the strike zone, but on the inside part of the strike zone. He got the good part of the bat on that one.
Steal pitch tracker. Showing that fastball from Nova kind of moving away from Mitch Moreland. Mitch now with 7 runs driven in. One and one. 424 feet is how far away from home plate that ball off the bat of Ian Desmond came down. And it didn't stay in the air very long. Traveled 424 rather quickly. That'll do it for the Rangers. Moreland grounds out, but Ian Desmond gets the Rangers on the board once again. His 3rd home run of the year. We'll go to the 6th inning here at Globe Life Park in Arlington. The Rangers leading the Yankees 7-0. Blue Jays on May 14th. That's a Saturday, and the first 15,000 fans at Globe Life Park will receive a Rougned Odor bobblehead, courtesy of Dr. Pepper Kroger. Visit TexasRangers.com or call 972-RANGERS to purchase your tickets today. Rougned and that head-first slide of his as a bobblehead. Nice to see that he got action figures now instead of just guys standing there. And one of Jeff Bannister pointing as if to say, those are my guys, leave them alone. Or whatever he was. But it was an action figure.
I like the bobbleheads that talk.
I haven't
I think
seen
Eric's talked.
Does it?
Eric Nadell's talked.
I hadn't seen that.
Yeah. Bill King, the great
Uh-huh.
Oakland announcer, had a terrific one that talked. Looked just like him, too.
A.J. Griffin back to D.D. Gregorius. Gregorius' counterpart, Elvis Andrus, firing to first. Well, the left side of the Ranger infield between Andrus and Beltre, they've committed one error this year between them. Elvis had an error on opening day and has not committed one since, and Beltre has not made a miscue for the last 31 ball games now.
You know, the Ranger defense has been really good. Surprisingly, the outfielders have made more errors than the infielders, which is very unusual, but the Rangers are in the top grouping of the best defensive teams in the league so far.
And speaking of defense, we'll give you the TXU power player to watch. TXU Energy bringing this 76 total chances. There's me. Ball dumped into right center for a base hit. Torres now with both base hits off of A.J. Griffin. Getting back to the TXU Energy power player to watch. Most chances at third base, 55 assists, the most in Major League Baseball this year. No errors. One of only 6 full-time third basemen to go errorless so far this year. And just to fortify what you were talking about, Tom, playing as well as we've seen him in a Ranger uniform.
For sure. And, you know, errors are nice. It's a nice statistic, but sometimes the defensive ability goes beyond the errors. You can have some errors and still be playing some spectacular defense, which he's doing, and he hasn't made any errors.
Here's Jacoby Ellsbury for his third at bat. Moreland trying to go 3-6-3, and they get it done. Rangers turn their 29th twin killing of the year. A tough one at 3-6-3, and that removes the Yankee threat. No runs, 1 hit, nobody left. 5.5 in the books. 7-0 Rangers. It's time now for the Sonic Slam Inning, brought to you by Sonic. Tonight's jackpot is worth $1,700 and dinner for 2 at Sonic Drive-In. If a Ranger hits a home run during this inning, Jimmy Fodge from Paris, Texas will win $1,700. And if a Ranger hits a grand slam this inning, Jimmy is going to win $25,000. You can register at any participating Sonic restaurant. Elvis Andrus, Brett Nicholas, and Delino DeShields. Bottom third of the Ranger order here in the 6th inning. Elvis takes a strike. Elvis 2 for 2 tonight. He's back up to 338 with the average. He's also driven in his 12th run of the year.
Elvis just needs to pretend there's a man at second base every time he hits.
No kidding. Yeah, he was leading the American League in batting with runners in scoring position before he got that single. So he has increased his lead, no doubt. Nova back to the plate. Down the left field line, that is trouble. Gardner's not going to get there. It is into the corner for extra bases, and Elvis steams into second with his third hit of the night. A leadoff double here in the 6th inning.
Well, he was fooled by it, way out in front of it. He kind of lofted it down the left field line. Gardner was playing him way over towards center field, so the only thing bad that could have happened to that ball is it went foul. There's no way Gardner was going to get to it. He's just coming into the picture now.
Well, the Rangers now 9 base hits tonight. Brett Nicholas has grounded into a double play and lined to right field. Carlos Beltran took extra bases away from Brett.
Elvis knows this one's going to fall in. He knows he's going to get a double, but he's running hard just in case something strange happens and he can get a triple. And because that man's watching him.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to Cadillac it on that one.
That's the father effect, you'd have to say, from Adrian. 1 ball, no strikes. Brett Nicholas getting opportunity to catch his 3rd consecutive ball game here tonight. And he takes ball 2. For Brett this year, you remember he had that double in his major league debut. Double and a single up there in Seattle. 3 of his 5 hits have gone for extra bases. Had his first big league home run last night. He was trying to make it 2 with that swing. Nova, though, a pretty good sinking off-speed pitch. Elvis out there at second. Nicholas trying to pick him up. That's lined to down the right field line. That's in the corner for extra bases. Elvis scores into second, an RBI double. Brett Nicholas, Rangers are piling it on, 8-0. Brett Nicholas now with 3 big league RBI.
Up there trying to pull the ball. Got a pitch to pull. See the concentration in his eyes. About as close as you can come. Watch the ball hit the bat right there and ripped one down the right field line. Got his first big league home run last night off Dylan Betances. He's got an RBI double backing it up in this game.
Now Delino, first ball swinging. Gregorius takes care of that ground ball. 1 away. So Delino's grounded out all 3 times tonight. It takes the Rangers back to the top of the order for Rougned Odor. Rougned, a fly ball and a couple of ground outs this evening. Batting average now at .224. Breaking ball came in and hit him. Well, that thing just followed Odor. He was trying to jackknife out of the way and couldn't move far enough. 2 on with 1 out. Mazzara coming up.
Nomar got the big inning started in the 3rd after 2 quick outs. He had a bullet for a base hit. Well, 15 minutes later, the Rangers had scored 5 runs.
Yeah.
Then his third time up, he hit one just as hard. Gregorius made a nice play on a tough hop at shortstop, so he's hit the ball well all 3 times. Scored a couple of runs.
0-1. Mazara now 2 for 3 and hitting at .373. Steel pitch tracker keeping you up on the locations of the various pitches from Ivan Nova in this instance. Back to Nova, second, and back to first. The double play goes 1-6-3, and that takes care of the Ranger threat. But they add on a run on a couple of hits and leave one. We finished 6 full innings. It's now the Rangers 8 and the Yankees nothing. Tonight's four-game summary starts off with Prince Fielder. Got his 15th RBI of the year that got the Rangers on the board in the first inning. And the Rangers got a big inning in the third. Mitch Moreland, a 2-run single that kept the line going for the Rangers. Ian Desmond would capture his third home run of the year. Line one to dead center field. Rangers leading 8-0 now as we head to the top of the 7th inning. And aside from the offense getting going, the man on the mound, A.J. Griffin, the big story tonight. He has worked 6 innings. He has allowed 2 hits, and they've both been to Ronald Torreyes.
Yeah, coming into this inning, he only had 68 pitches through 6 innings, so he's got a nice pitch count going for him.
Brett Gardner leading things off. Gardner twice has flied to left field tonight. That one's down and in. 3 balls, no strikes. There has not been a walk issued by A.J. this evening. He has struck out 3. In fact, this is one of the few 3-ball counts that I can remember him having. And ball 4 puts Gardner aboard. Now let's take a look at tonight's delivery of the game. And it comes by way of Jimmy Johns. It's that man on the mound, A.J. Griffin. And he has been dominating tonight. Something for everybody on the Yankee ball club. Double play there, turn behind him. Just 2 base hits. His first walk here in the 7th inning of the evening. And he has been outstanding. Carlos Beltran has lined to Beltre at third, and he's flied to left field. Beltran, the switch hitter. He has had a great career. 1-1. A lot of the offensive categories for switch hitters. Beltran right up among the leaders all time. 396 career home runs. That's 5th most all time by a switch hitter. His teammate Mark Teixeira just one ahead of him. Right through the shift on the right side for a base hit. Gardner will motor around to third. Beltran waited nicely on that off-speed pitch that stayed up. First and third, nobody out. Mark Teixeira now will come up. We'll take a look at the Ford leaderboard. Here's the career switch hitters or career home runs, I should say, by switch hitters. Mickey Mantle, all-time leader with 536. Eddie Murray at 504. And Chipper Jones, Teixeira, and Beltran.
Yeah, the Rangers had played Beltran around to pull the ball, and on that pitch you would have probably expected him to pull it right into the shift, but he waited on it nicely, and when he hit it a little bit to the right, to our left of where Rougned was playing.
Teixeira takes that pitch on the outer edge. Mark tonight has struck out and fouled out. 231 the average. Just missed the inside corner. A ball and a strike. Good pitch on the outside corner.
Well, I'll say.
A little bit of painting going on by A.J. Griffin.
Well, he said he told Emily he'd like to cut down on his walks a little bit, continue to get sharper with his command, and that's exactly what he's done so far in this game.
Looping drive off the glove of Elvis. Everybody is going to be safe. As in with a slide just ahead of the throw, Carlos Beltran. In to score is Brett Gardner. So the Yankees get on the scoreboard. It's now an 8-1 Ranger lead.
That was just one of those tough hops. There was nothing that Elvis could do on that ball. It bounces in front of him with spin on it, and he tries to block it, tries to catch it, and there's really nothing he could do except hope he maybe could knock it down to get the force out at second base. Just a tough hop to handle.
Now that's going to be scored a base hit and an RBI for Teixeira. Elvis kind of caught in no man's land on that ball. It was hit hard enough where he couldn't back up and play a big hop.
Well, not much in the way of hard hit balls.
No.
Leadoff walk got it started though. And a ground ball to second that was hit against the shift, and then a chopper off Elvis's glove.
Brian McCann takes strike one. McCann has struck out and grounded out. 0 for 2 tonight. Up there with Beltran at second, Teixeira at first.
I don't think he knew that one was coming.
No, Brett Nichols completely crossed up. He was coming out of the crouch thinking that pitch was going to head it back toward the backstop. And probably got a strike taken away because he jumped up in front of the umpire.
Yeah, you're exactly right. He thought that was going to be a high fastball.
And Tony Barnett getting the call of the bullpen. He's going to start loosening. Brad Holman, the bullpen coach. Hard hit, a short hop to Elvis. He's going to turn that into 2.
Well, he got 2 tough hops.
Yep.
He caught the second one. First one was a little bit bigger hop, but that was a beautiful play to get the 2 outs quickly for AJ. Nice play by Elvis. That's 2 pretty tough plays to master in the same inning. That was not easy.
And almost the same kind of hop where it was in between for him. This one happened to get into the glove. Well, the Rangers turning their second double play of the night, the 30th of the season. Elvis doing a nice job with that one. And Starlene Castro.
At that time, the Rangers had the shift on, and he hit right to a man. Beltran found a hole with the shift on. Not that time, though. That's a big double play for AJ. Still got a pretty decent pitch count. 84th pitch coming up.
0-2 to Castro. The Rangers not really using the shift all that much. 10th fewest in Major League Baseball. Call strike 3. He locked him up like a felon at home plate. And A.J. Griffin shuts down the Yankees. They do get a run on a couple of hits, but strand one. We'll take the stretch at Globe Life Park. Rangers 8, Yankees 1 on Fox Sports Southwest.
We head to the bottom of the 7th here at Globe Life Park in Arlington. The Rangers in control of this one, which seems like the perfect opportunity to tell you about the Play Ball initiative coming up the weekend of May 14th and 15th, both in Dallas and here in Arlington. To register, go to texasrangers.com/playball. It's a free event for kids 5 to 15. You receive informal instruction from Rangers players and Rangers alumni. Also, the 6-shooters will be on hand, as well as Rangers captain. And also, everyone receives a free plastic bat and ball. Again, it's a free event. You have to register online, texasrangers.com/playball, guys.
All right, Em, thanks very much. And while you were letting folks know about that, Adrian Beltre chopped one out to short for out number 1. Here's Prince Fielder. Von Nova on since the 4th inning. Deals outside to Prince. Fielder 1 out of 2 tonight. Also had an intentional walk. He has scored a run. He has driven in a run. Rangers 8 runs on 10 hits this evening. 1 ball and 1 strike. Fielder now at the average at 195. Nova back to him. Ooh, he had a hanger there to work with.
Well, his feet didn't come off the ground, but almost did. His eyes lit up.
If you wonder what a hanger looks like, that is the definition right there. Got another one and pulled this one foul. And if he gets a 3rd one, it's going into the upper deck, I would imagine.
That man put his hand out to try to catch that, and he might be the luckiest guy in the ballpark that it didn't make contact. Or maybe it did.
Might have just scared his hand on the way by.
It hit his wrist, he wouldn't have been smiling.
No. Still 1-2.
see if he actually made contact. I don't think he made any contact with that. Fortunately, there was no one behind him.
Might have just snipped off his fingernails and went by. After Gregorius at short. That's out number 2. And before Ian Desmond steps in, let's send it over to John Radigan for a Chevy game break. All right, John, thank you. The Rangers trying to get above 500. They came in at 10-10 tonight. Our Quicken Loans Rocket Arms, talking about guys that are firing the baseballs effectively. 46 strikeouts for David Price this year. 14 tonight against Atlanta. That leads the American League to 46. And Chris Archer, 39 strikeouts. He is second behind David Price.
This is a good year to be playing Atlanta in interleague play. If you're an American League team, they are the early season favorite to get the #1 draft choice.
That one's a rocket. Knocked down by Castro, but he gets by him.
That was a rope.
Desmond will have a base hit. I'm not sure that he hit the home run any harder than that.
I was just so happy to see him swinging the bat. He knew it was just a matter of time, especially as hard as he's been working.
Our AT&T high-speed internet replay for you. Here's the home run on the breaking ball. And that's pretty high speed going out there, 424 feet. But how about the next one? We'll get that in a second. Mitch Moreland stepping in with Desmond at first. And now with a couple of hits tonight. And Mitch going the other way. There's a base hit to the left side. Desmond is going to third. There's nobody over there to cover.
The pitcher was there, but Gardner didn't want to throw it.
That's a situation where the shift not only gave you a base hit, it gave the Rangers an extra base.
And it brings up Elvis with a man in scoring position. Hard hit balls by Desmond and Moreland. Hard hit ground balls the other way.
Here's the one off Ian's bat.
That was a skimmer. Castro got a glove on it, but I don't know if he had his heart in it.
He was thinking about getting in front of it. He said, no, I don't think so.
That sticks in my glove fine. Otherwise, I'm going to live to talk about it another day.
Yep. Well, first and third with 2 outs. Remember, the Rangers in that third inning got a couple of quick outs and then put 5 on the board. They've had a couple of quick outs here in the 7th. Elvis trying to make it more. That's all the way to the backstop. Desmond will score. Down to second. Moreland, the Rangers on top 9-1. Second wild pitch uncorked by a Yankee hurler tonight.
There's very little McCann could do on that one where that ball bounced as far out in front of him. He tried to block it.
Now 1 ball and no strikes. Moreland now in scoring position. Cutting it off at third, Torreyes. He throws out Elvis Andrus. That'll do it. The Rangers get on the board again. They get a run on 2 hits and lead 1. We're going to the 8th inning at Globe 5 Park in Arlington. It's the Rangers 9 and the Yankees 1.
Time for the Progressive Fan of the Game. We got to give it to Mackenzie. She goes to school in Arkansas in the 4th grade, came with this great sign here because she gave up her field trip to Oklahoma to come to a Ranger game with her dad. Congratulations, Mackenzie. Great Ranger fan here. Here's the bag. Anything you'd like to say? Anything, Mackenzie?
I want to say hi to my mom and that I love her and I want to come back to another Rangers game.
We can make that happen. All right, way to go, Mackenzie. Good to have you out here. And Mom, they're having a great time. Appreciate it. Thanks, Mackenzie.
Can you get these kids in here too?
Yeah, I can get them in here. You want them on camera?
Yeah.
All right, you guys want to wave? All right, there we go. Are they your friends?
No.
Oh, okay. You just want to be nice. Okay. All right. We got them in there. Is that good, Mackenzie? Anything else can we do for you? That's it? Okay, thanks, Mackenzie. We're good then. All right, Buzz.
Oh,
Nice going, Noxie.
What a lucky dad to
Yeah.
have a daughter that wants to come to Ranger games like that. That's just beautiful.
And get all the people in the stadium.
That's great.
On the camera. That's good. Dustin Ackley starting things off, and he hammers one foul while we were away during the half-inning break. Director of Home Park Entertainment, Chuck Morgan, the PA announcer, was informing folks here that there's a weather advisory, and he wanted everybody to clear out of the upper deck. Storms forecast to move through the area in about 40 minutes or so. Tracking that ball down in left center field, no problem for Ian Desmond. That's out number 1, and Ackley 0 for 3.
And A.J. Griffin just became the first Ranger pitcher to pitch into the 8th inning and get an out. 7 1/3 now.
Quick reminder, folks, that May 10th is your next chance to take advantage of $10 Tuesdays. Tickets for the White Sox Ranger game are just $10, and you can add a $10 meal deal when purchasing online. All fans from Tuesdays receive $10 parking also. Visit TexasRangers.com/specials to secure your $10 Tuesday tickets for May 10th. D.D. Gregorius takes inside. Count of 1 ball and 1 strike. Gregorius has struck out and grounded to short. Yankees scored their only run last inning. And I know that A.J. Griffin's going to look back and say, you know, I walked the leadoff guy, and that was the worst thing I could possibly do there.
Only walk of the night.
3-1 now, the count. Now 3-2. Talking about that weather warning, and Chuck Morgan does such a great job here of informing fans and keeping them safe in and around Globe Life Park. Gregorius caught admiring that pitch on the inside corner, knee high. 2 gone. That is strikeout number 5 for A.J. Griffin.
You got the call right at the bottom of the strike zone, right in the middle of the strike zone. Now you can see what our angle is off to the side a little bit. And so if we were calling balls and strikes, we'd have a hard time doing it. But the Fox tracks, the rectangle that we use, that's a true angle. That's from behind home plate. Not quite the same angle we're looking at.
Beltre to Moreland. That'll do it. Another 1-2-3 inning. A.J. Griffin back on track. He has gone through 8 innings, and his Rangers leading the New York Yankees 9-1 on Fox Sports Southwest.
Rangers in control over the Yankees as we head to the bottom of the 8th here at Globe Life Park in Arlington. This is the second of 3 between these two teams. The finale will take place tomorrow. Same time, same place, 7 o'clock here on Fox Sports Southwest. There you see a couple of the principals in this one. CC Sabathia towing the rubber for the Yankees. You see his numbers career-wise. And Desmond with his 400 average in the last 8 games, facing off against CC tomorrow. Thanks to the folks at AT&T High-Speed Internet for getting us ready for the finale tomorrow between these two guys.
All right, Dan, thank you. Well, we head to the bottom of the 8th inning. Yankee fans a little perturbed right about now. I'm sure that he's not looking forward to the storms that are moving in, and also the storm that he set off in the stands. I'm sure he's been able to get an earful of it from Ranger fans. Jason Shreve, the 25-year-old southpaw out of Las Vegas, Nevada, is on now. Shreve, originally a property of the Atlanta Braves, was traded over to the Yankees prior to last season. That was nice of him.
Yankee fans, I think, have a much better reputation today than they did 20 or 30 years ago. I'd rather sit with him and share a beer with him than arm wrestle him, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, he's done a few curls in his lifetime. There are numbers for Chase and Shreve. 208 opponent average. This is 8th game. Last year with the Yankees appeared in 59 ball games, won 6-2 for New York. Red Nicholas takes the ball low. It's 2 balls, 2 strikes. Nicholas an RBI double his last time up. He is 1 for 3. That RBI his 3rd of his big league career. Got him swinging. That is out number 1. And we'll bring up Delino to Shields. Shreve made his big league debut in 2014 with the Atlanta Braves. Appeared in 15 games, all out of the bullpen. He has never appeared as a starter in professional baseball. Delino tonight, 3 ground balls, 0 for 3. Delino in a bit of an offensive funk. That's off the end of the bat. It's going to be a foot race, and my money's on Delino. Oh, nice play by Shreve to get over there.
Closing speed was pretty good by the pitcher.
Pretty athletic move by Shreve. A left-hander normally would fall off the third base side a little bit, but he recovered very nicely. He was hightailing it over there, too. He knew he had to get there in a hurry.
Great camera shot. Beat him by a foot.
Ryan McCann out there to give Jason Shreve a little time to catch his breath. Maybe brought some oxygen out to him. So 2 up, 2 away here in the 8th inning. And Odor now will step in against Shreve. Odor hit by a pitch last time up. Other than that, 0 for 3 tonight at the top of the order. Nothing and 1. Odor 0 for 2 in previous matchups with the Yankee left-hander Jason Shreve. That ball's hit pretty well to right center. Ellsbury going back. He is looking up. Goodbye. Odor putting a charge in one. His 3rd home run of the year. The Rangers have put up double figures. They lead 10-1.
Wood has been making some contact, having a hard time finding as many base hits as he would like. When you hit it over the fence, you don't have to worry about hitting it right at somebody. Half-price Papa John's pizza tomorrow, that's for sure.
Yeah, with some to spare.
Yeah.
That's good to see. Rangers had been struggling scoring runs. There's 5 runs scored in the last 5 ball games. A lot of guys getting into the act tonight.
Jason Shreve has that look on his face right now.
He's heard that sound before.
That sound of the bat. The way it came off the bat, it hit him.
Nomar Mazara is going to be on for the 3rd time tonight. Ball jumped off Odor's bat pretty good. No, Mazara, a pair of singles, now a hit by pitch. He is aboard with 2 outs. Adrian Beltre finished for the night. Hanser Alberto has come off the bench. 2-pitch hit for Beltre. Adrian finishes 1 for 4 this evening. Oh, Adrian getting the last inning off here tonight. Alberto fouling that first pitch back. Hanser a 154 average. He's appeared as a pinch runner in the last 3 ball games. This is his first at bat in a while. Outside corner, 0-2. The Rangers a couple more home runs tonight. They're now up to 18. Moving up the ladder a bit. They came in tied for 12th in the league, so kind of the bottom feeders just barely ahead of them, and they've picked up some ground. One ball, 2 strikes. Shreve pulling the string and had Alberto out in front. Now the left-hander sets and checks first. Got him swinging. Good up with a fastball, and Alberto down swinging, but Rangers get back on the board. Odor, his 3rd home run of the year into the Ranger bullpen. That got the Rangers into double-digit territory. We'll go to the 9th inning. Rangers on.
We head to the 9th inning at a windy, brisk, and potentially dangerous, they say, Globe Life Park in Arlington. They've cleared the upper deck. The teams have played very quickly. John Radigan here with Mark McLemore and Pudge Rodriguez. We intend to do the same thing the teams did during Rangers Live. We'll do everything that needs to be done. We'll get that show done. We'll bring you everything we possibly can. We'll also do it as quickly as we can. So that's coming up right after the game. Looks like we'll have a happy show to talk about, guys.
All right, John, thank you. Yeah, we can almost guarantee that. Well, Tony Barnett has come on, and A.J. Griffin, after 8 innings tonight of 4-hit baseball, gave up 1 run. Tony Barnett takes over. We haven't seen Tony since Saturday in Chicago. He is on now to work to the top of the Yankee order here in the 9th inning. A strike to Jacoby Ellsbury. Ellsbury 0 for 3, a couple of groundouts, once into a double play. He's also flied out. The outing tonight by A.J. Griffin, the longest of the year by a Ranger starter.
Yep, I think the best start by a Ranger starter, too. 1 walk, 5 strikeouts. Mixed up his pitches. He did everything you want to see a pitcher do tonight. And after missing basically the last 2 years, I feel really good for A.J., the work that he's put in to be back where he is right
now. Right field, Mazzara started back, now has to regroup and come on in a few steps. That is out number 1 here in the 9th inning. It'll bring up Brett Gardner.
He was telling Emily before the game he couldn't have written a better script, how well he feels about the job that he's done. Just wanted to brush up a few things, cut down on the walks, throw a little more consistency with his strike throwing, and boy, did he do that tonight.
Yep. Checked off.
He hit all his checkpoints today, didn't he?
That's exactly right. He did. Checked off every box that he put down there. Brett Gardner drew a walk and scored the only Yankee run. That was a leadoff walk in the 7th inning. One ball and 1 strike. Tony Barnett has had scoreless outings in 6 of his last 7 times out there. Now he is getting things together. He's going to give up a looping single to Brett Gardner. A 1-out base knock here in the 9th inning. So 1 on, 1 out. Carlos Beltran coming up. Pretty good pitch, not a good result.
Right fielder Carlos Beltran.
Well, folks, are you hungry to beat the Yankees? You can get $35 tickets in the Cholula all-you-can-eat porch for tomorrow's final game against these hated Yankees. You can enjoy the all-you-can-eat buffet of your favorite ballpark food and a great view of the new left field video board while saving 34% on the tickets. Use the online coupon code HUNGRY at texasrangers.com/specials and reserve your seat today. Beltran 1 for 3. Had a single to left center field his last time up. Now 0-2. Jeff Bannister talking to Prince Fielder. Nice kind of game for the skipper to be able to catch up on some conversations he's been meaning to have with guys. Yeah. Got some time to do it, and not a whole lot of pressure put on by the Yankees tonight. A ball and 2 strikes the count. Got him swinging. Now, Tony Barnett showing you a pretty good repertoire of pitches to Carlos Beltran. He gets the strikeout, and now just 1 to go to close this game out.
Yeah, Tony looks better and better every outing. More comfortable, more confident. Great changeup right there, tailing down and away. Struck out Carlos Beltran. Really fooled him with that pitch.
Yeah, that looked like the splitter that he uses as the changeup. That has that little extra, movement.
Sure did.
Here's Teixeira. To right field, that's going to be down in front of Mazzara for a base hit. Well, Mark Teixeira with his 2nd base hit of the evening. He's 2 for 4 now. 2 on, still 2 outs. And Brian McCann coming up. And Tony Barnett, after that rough initial outing against the Seattle Mariners here in the second game of the season, gave up a couple of runs in 2/3 of an inning. And ever since then, he has really gotten better each time out. Felt more comfortable, and everything that he's gone through, the 6 years in Japan and becoming a reliever and figuring out what he had to do to be successful, and then needing to prove it at age 32 at the big league level. Probably not the easiest thing to do. My hat's off to him. McCann, a .264 hitter after going 0 for 3. One ball and one strike. Crowd of 26,163 on hand here tonight. Many of them staying when you see this game closed out. And now Tony Barnett, one strike away from accomplishing that. And one strike away from moving A.J. Griffin to 3-0 for the year. One-two pitch. Ground ball to first. Moreland will take it to the bag, and that is a winner. Tony Barnett closes it out. A.J. Griffin with 8 strong innings tonight, the longest outing by a Rangers starter this year. Picks up his 3rd win. The Rangers let their offense loose, and it roared out of the barn here tonight. 10 runs for the Ranger offense that have been limited ever since the Houston series. The last 4 ball games prior to tonight, they had been shut down pretty well. Not tonight. They came out swinging early and often. They put a 5 spot on the board in the 3rd inning and then scored single runs in each the 5th through the 8th inning and ran away with it 10-1. Rougned Odor crunched his 3rd home run of the year, and the last out of the ball game taken care of. Tony Barnett applauding Mitch Moreland as he took that ground ball to the bag at first and got the Rangers back up over 500. They are now 11-10 for the season. They remain in that first place tie, or I should say in second. They're a half game back. Second place tie, a half game back of Seattle. So an all-around very good ball game tonight by the Rangers. One they needed desperately to get the monkey off their backs, and they did just that tonight. Thanks in large part to the man that Emily Jones is going to talk to down in the field, A.J. Griffin.
Thank you very much. A.J. Griffin, we just heard the time of the game, 2:19. You like the sound of that. Must mean you were doing something good out there on the mound.
Yeah, I mean, you just try to work fast and keep the team into the game, and they make good plays behind you, and, just trying to be efficient with pitches.
You talked about before the game how pleased you were with the start that you've had to the season. This has got to be even Don't even. Okay. Careful, Rudy. Like I said yesterday, you were just talking about the start that you got off to and how pleased you were with it, and then to come out and even better it here tonight. What's that like for you?
I mean, I'm just trying to stay inside myself and just focus on what I can control and just execute every pitch, every time I get a chance to go out there, and it's been working out. And Brett called a great game tonight. The fielding was outstanding, and they put a ton of runs on the board, so it was a good team effort.
Yeah, that's got to loosen things up when the offense explodes like it does, especially putting up a crooked number in 1 inning. But to the defense, like you talked about, that's been there all season, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we got a lot of great ball players on this club, and it's a fun group to be around. We enjoy playing ball, and I'm stoked to be on this team.
AJ, congratulations on the win. We appreciate the time. Guys, we'll send it back up to you.
All right, Emily, thank you. And understandably, a very happy A.J. Griffin, and it'll be a very happy Ranger clubhouse. We'll be back with more from Globe Life Park right after this on Fox Sports Southwest.